Angry Birds are very popular, especially in the minds of game-playing kids. But are there real Angry Birds out there? Birds battle to survive, find enough food and shelter, avoid danger, and on top of that, must raise their young. Life's hard, but will they get in a flap? Winter's icy grip on the landscape makes it difficult for birds. Staying warm and finding food test their endurance. If they get through these toughest months, they'll be well set to face the challenges of the coming year. Decked in warm feathers, even down to the toes, the capercaillie's powerful beak nibbles what he can from the conifers. For him, staying alive is a full-time job. There's no time or energy for anger. When things get really tough, birds move in search of food. A golden eagle watches Stella's sea eagles arriving on his patch. A few gaps in the ice make fishing possible, but any catch is coveted by the neighbors. The golden eagle's a lot smaller, but he's got fight. It's a fishy free-for-all. Talons lock in the featherweight food fight. If there's ever a reason for birds to get angry, it's to make sure they get enough to eat. You don't have to be an aggressive predator to get shirty. When resources are running low, it's every bird for himself. One way for birds to avoid the conflict is to find a niche. The bittern is a master fisherman, able to access food out of the reach of most. When it comes to self-sufficiency, he has it licked. But his success seems to draw jealous eyes. The goshawk could kill a bird the size of a bittern, or rob it for a free meal. But a bittern can bite back. Once bitten, twice shy. Like many predators, the birds are keen to guard their hunting grounds and kick competitors out. Another predator, a mink, is working the patch. But when this one gets lucky, a bolshy buzzard wants in. He's determined, but in his frustration, he doesn't notice the mink using the back door. Food is not the only thing to get birds hot under the collar. The first hint of spring thaw attracts migrants. Swans heading north, looking for a place to breed. These swans pair for life and pick a spot where they want to nest. It's the perfect time to renew their wedding vows. Some of last year's brood are still hanging about, but they need to clear space for the next round of family planning. But the real hustle is when a pair of swingers swaggers into town to try and usurp the owners. Almost walking on his own beak, the male shows off his coordination. The pair declare their commitment to each other with even more vigor, but he still isn't getting the message. This one may have just cooked the goose. lovebirds declare their victory. For red-throated diver, the first phase in family planning is to stake out a place to live. Making sure you have territory with food and shelter is enough to get in a flap. Even once you think you've found a romantic spot, it can still be a struggle to keep it to yourselves. The couple immediately get on the defensive. They mimic each other, demonstrating to the interloper that they are perfectly in sync. But the new bird wants his chance to show off. He's got some moves, but two's company, three's a crowd. Compared to the regal divers, their cousins, the grebes, seem to need a bit of anger management. It's an all-out bird brawl. Aggressive bird behavior isn't always obvious. The woodland is alive with beautiful birdsong. But the wrens aren't singing for us to enjoy. This is warfare of the airways. Each challenger tries to out-sing its rivals with a longer, stronger, more complex song. He's screaming, "This patch is mine. Enter at your own risk." There's always a chance that a songster comes under sniper attack. The secretive snipe tries to serenade the ladies, but his competition is determined to steal the limelight. Of course, there is an alternative way to settle a score. In the Amazon rainforest, it seems a bachelor party is going on. Dazzling as he may be, he's not going to win any singing contests. How about a dance-off? It's the Cock of the Rocks musical moves that will attract a fan club. But in the jungle, there is only one dance champ. He might be plain to look at, but the white-throated mannequin makes up for looks with fancy footwork. As a professional, he takes his art very seriously and won't tolerate any mess on his stage. Now he can really shake a tail feather. Bird's got talent. Birds go to all kinds of lengths to attract love. Though he's one of the largest flying birds, size isn't enough for the great bustard. He almost seems to turn himself inside out to flounce in front of the females. Fluffed and inflated, he booms his tunes. But it seems the most appreciative member of his audience is also the least welcome. No time for the foxtrot. On a smaller but far more flamboyant scale, there is nothing rough about the rough. With long neck and crest feathers fanned, the glamorous gladiators go to war. He tries to keep the girls interested. But there are just too many suitors. Sometimes his regal costume can be more of a handicap on the windy tundra. Now that the capercaillie is thawed out, he combines his vocal range and fine plumage. His shake, rattle and pop echo through the forest until a challenger is drawn. Bills built for crunching pine cones can do a lot of damage. But the hen doesn't seem too impressed, and before there's any bloodshed, the lesser male backs down. The Kappa's cousin, the black cock, Really gives them something to grouse about. If there is an angry game bird, this is it. The original cockfight. They target the sensitive red wattles of their opponent. The only rule? There are no rules. Once battles are won, comes a brief period of lovemaking. The swans have a romantic table for two, perfect to set the mood. But it can be hard to find quality time in a crowd. A mud bank is like high-rise flats for bee-eaters and rollers. The bee-eater tries a few chat-up lines, but whenever he's ready to make a move, it seems someone else shows up. It can get pretty annoying. It's obvious where bee-eaters get their name. Disarmed and delicious. For these birds, it's as good as giving a box of chocolates. This should seal the deal. The female roller wants to be wined and dined too. Don't get cocky. Seems he's managing to keep up with the Joneses. She's got a funny way of showing appreciation. The bejeweled vomit is made up of unwanted shells. Once the birds are committed, they need accommodation. But trying to agree on the perfect home can test even the strongest marriage. Only one way to settle the argument. Storks are expert at construction. But it's hard to know who's in charge of the site. Fencing in feathers. These aren't angry birds. The bill tapping is a ritualized display to cement the lifelong bonds between gannets. They need to be strong. They are going to try and raise young in one of the most crowded estates in the bird world. Seabirds know how to pack them in. They might have a sea view, but the high-rise doesn't offer much space. They get angry over the tiniest ledge. There is also a problem with the plumbing. Instead of making do with what nature offers, puffins tunnel burrows into the cliff top. Not total troglodytes, they line the burrows with grass. Puffins get privacy. No such luxury for the gannets, who try and make less than a metre of rock feel like home. They gather nesting material, but on the rock faces, there isn't much to go around. It's easy to covet thy neighbour's seaweed. Birds can seek very different qualities when looking for a home. A crocodile-infested riverbank doesn't look ideal. But this is the preferred spot for Mr. and Mrs. Dick Cobb. They have nested right next to the nest of a huge croc, but the enormous reptile seems to realize they are no threat to her brood, and she ignores them, though the birds still seem a little nervous. But more importantly, having a crocodile watchdog means that most other animals are going to stay well out of the way. Though there is one exception. The monitor lizard is a consummate egg thief. But this bird's got balls. The pair unite, making themselves look as big and scary as possible, the bold black and white wing markings adding to the effect. They shield the nest, trying to keep this reptile on the run. Not all birds have a crocodile handy, but still live by the rule that you should keep your enemies close. On the open tundra, an eider duck nests close to one of the fiercest seabirds, sometimes known as the pirate of the sea, the skua. Every time the eider moves, she has to duck and attack. The skua isn't hunting, just defending her nest, as she will with any intruder, which is lucky for the duck if the visitor happens to be a hungry Arctic fox. On the tundra, there is nowhere to hide, so snow geese try a different tactic: safety in numbers. Their every move is watched by a fox. But there are too many pairs of eyes for him to go unnoticed. An abandoned nest gives him a lucky break. He stashes it for later. He wants to get as many as possible while eggs are in season. The birds put up a brave defense, but gradually his tactics improve. Saying boo to a goose usually buys him enough time. However, the fox needs to be good at bird identification. Swans have quite a temper. Outfoxed. For any successful parent, the fight is far from over. Now the gannets are eating for two. Back at base, a chick waits for regurgitated fish. But it's not long before the chick's hungry again. Guillemots join the fishing fleet. Now all the bird has to do is get its catch back to its chick. Easier said than done. And for the puffins, it's not just the neighbours they need to worry about. There are some birds that seem totally fearless and willing to defend against any intruder, no matter what the size. A flock of bird watchers get turns in a flap. They certainly give the impression of angry birds, but these terns are just protecting their young from a perceived threat. Other intruders, like the giant skua, can have far more deadly intent. In wetlands, wading birds are busy fishing for the family. And not only that, but carrying out constant repairs on the nest. With the endless chores and seemingly ungrateful kids, it's not surprising that tempers fray. Not that the spoonbill can do much damage with its paddle. She seems to have a clutch of ugly ducklings. They will gain the adult's elegance, but will still have their mother's nose. After a hard day looking after the family, everyone needs a bit of peace and a chance to put their feet up. An angry bird, or perhaps the swan's just mean. There's another aggressive bird behavior that doesn't have to be family related. The ospreys are just trying to go about their business, but as predators they are not welcomed in this community, and the jays want to make sure they know it. The mobbing tries to drive them off and make sure all other birds in the area are aware of the danger. Before long, the end is in sight for long-suffering parents. Their chicks are nearly ready to leave home. Which is just as well. For some overworked couples, relationships are starting to fray. The bee-eater tries to tempt his now large chicks from their nest. Temptation isn't working, but soon they'll feel the urge to spread their wings. Young peregrines are taking their first steps. They've left the nest, but don't want to go any further. Like whiny teenagers, they sit around complaining, still expecting to be fed. Eventually, it seems, they take the hint. But peregrines have it easy. It's guillemots that need nerves of steel and a head for heights. The adults make it look easy, but guillemots have an unusual strategy. When the plump chicks have outgrown their tiny ledges, they need to leave home. The only catch is, they are not yet developed enough to fly. For this unlucky youngster, it's out of the frying pan and into the fire. Luckily, many of the youngsters make it to their fathers, who will watch over them at sea until they are ready to fend for themselves. After a successful breeding season, birds get restless. Cranes gather in huge flocks, the young birds alongside their parents. For many birds, the changing weather will mean moving to warmer regions. The young cranes will follow their parents south. For those that are left behind, another cold and challenging winter begins. A carcass is an exciting find for crows and magpies, and all are willing to scrap for their share. A buzzard proclaims himself head of the table, and the magpies seem willing to let him have his way. But the hooded crows aren't going to give in without a fight. His plans are spoiled by a huge sea eagle. Wherever the cocky birds live, they will fiercely tackle big predators, even eagles. But this is a bird-eat-bird world. An angry bird who doesn't know when to stop will pay the ultimate price. Mood swings in birds are all about survival. Even if they seem angry at times, our feathered friends are spectacular wild neighbours who drive us crazy with their beauty, charm, and plentiful character.
Jetzt fliegt er wieder auf.
Angry birds, or perhaps just survivors, with an inspiring fighting spirit.